Good morning. My name is Dr. George Sparks, and this is Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down, sponsored by Bible Interact. I received a question the other day, and it's interesting. You really don't hear this preached too much in church from the pulpit, probably because how somebody might handle it. How would you explain this? And of course, remember to like and subscribe and make comments. Let me know what you're thinking. This is the question from Matthew chapter 8, and you're probably familiar with this. It says, another of Jesus's disciples, that doesn't mention who. It says, another of Jesus's disciples said to him, Lord, permit me to first go bury my father. But Jesus said to him, follow me and allow the dead to bury the dead. Now, what would Jesus mean by that? First of all, could it mean that there's an urgency to promote the message of the gospel? Secondly, it doesn't mean that there's such a short time. And well, how long does it take to actually bury your father? I mean, today at burial, you go to the funeral home, and then you pay your respects, and everybody goes to the graveyard, and after the ceremony, you go back and probably have something to eat with the family and pay last respects and talk about the deceased. But in the ancient world, it was different, especially in first century Judaism. They had a custom, a tradition, if you will, of belief in the afterlife. Now, you probably don't find that uncommon, but not all Jews believed that. The Sadducees did not really believe in the afterlife, if you will, but the Pharisees did. And those that can afford this type of a custom would do it out of just respect for the family or in preparation for the afterlife. So when Herod was building the temple, he hired lots of workers, lots of masons. In the Bible, in the New Testament, they're called a tecton. And it's referred once as to Jesus's father. Jesus was the carpenter's son, but the word carpenter is a tecton, which really means an artificer, those that cut into stone. There's not a lot of work back then making furniture out of wood, but Herod had massive building campaigns, and he needed people to work in stone, which means there would be tectons. When the temple was getting close to completion, they also would exhibit their skills by constructing ossuary boxes. Ossuary means a bone box. And what would happen is that you take the body of the deceased, you'd lay him or her into a tomb. Now it's going to take time for that body to decompose. And then after the body decomposes, they would wash the bones in wine and water and perfume. Then the bones would be placed into an ossuary box, and then the ossuary box would be slid into a niche in the wall called a loculi. So this custom would probably take a long time for the body to decompose and then construct the ossuary box. So the idea that Jesus would say, let the dead bury the dead. Maybe what he was saying is we don't have time for this ceremony. It's good, the disciple could be away for a while, not just one day. But the message needs to go out because of the shortness time span of his ministry. Now, what do we find when tombs have been uncovered in Israel? Well, we find lamps because they don't have any light switches. So we might find tens, maybe 100 lamps in a tomb, because a family tomb would last for a long time. And by making ossuary boxes, they're actually conserving in space too. Okay, next, here's another type of a lamp. This one actually had a menorah on it. You can see the menorah. This is a plain Herodian style lamp. Also, we might find perfume vials. Why? Because the body is decomposing. Remember the tomb of Lazarus? I'm sure that there would be different types of vessels, such as the alabaster vessel. Later on, after Lazarus was risen from the dead, there was a banquet, and Jesus was there, and he was anointed by one of Lazarus's sisters, right? And she had an alabaster vessel. You wonder where she got that alabaster vessel. Well, it was probably no longer needed in the tomb because Lazarus is now back to life, right? So she uses that to anoint Jesus, that ointment in that alabaster vessel. And Judas says this could have been used for money for the poor because it was very expensive. And Jesus turns around and she says, she's preparing me for my burial. A hint. All right. So what else do we find in a tomb? Sometimes we find coins. Maybe during this time also we have what we call Hellenistic Jews. So they would place the coins on the eyes, and when the body decomposes, these coins would fall into the skull. So there's times when we're excavating a tomb, and of course we're very careful with the remains, but you can hear a rattling in the skull because the coins have fell through. So I hope that answers your question. Maybe it was a little intense, but you have a nice day. I appreciate you showing up and listening. My name is Dr. George Sparks, and this is Bible Interact. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.